Welcome, folks, to the Corporation Nation radio program. My name is Clint Richardson. It is February the 7th, 2014, and my very special guest today is Dr. Sharry Edwards. Her website, her main website, of course, is sharryedwards.com, and that's SHARRY, which actually leads you to soundhealthoptions.com. Welcome to the show, Sharry.
Great to be here again. Could I make a little correction?
Sure.
They can get to so much more and so much updated information if they'll just go to soundhealthoptions.com.
Absolutely. I am actually there now, and there is quite a bit of information. Now, we've got a lot to talk about today, but before we go into some of these topics, I would very much like to explain basically the basics of the research you do, especially the vocal, I'm trying to remember the name of it right now.
Just vocal profiling will do.
Yes, because I find that fascinating. And you actually had me on your show, I don't know, 2 years ago, probably, talking about CAFRs, and little beknownst to me was a little... you had a program going in the background where you were actually analyzing my voice to see basically how, lots of different factors to it, sincerity and honesty and certain variations in the voice. And then you compared it to, which I thought was funny, you compared it to Obama, a speech that was given by Obama. And I found that to be very humorous. So why don't you explain how the bioacoustics actually work?
How it works, we're not really sure, but we have figured out that the voice is a holographic representation of everything that's going on in your body. And so think of your brain as a central processing unit, and on your nerves that all run back to your spine and your brain, there is information by way of electricity and frequencies running on that neural network, and it sends messages back and forth so you can crook your finger or whatever you want to think or do. And so we began to look at vocal prints to see what was going on about 20, 30 years ago, because we thought the voice was very powerful in telling people what you thought, whether or not you were mad, or that you were in love with somebody, or you just were very sarcastic. And when we began to look at all those things underneath the voice, ended up opening a Center for Bioacoustic Biology, and bioacoustic means life sounds. So we run this research center that has a clinical basis to it. Just did a big project on Parkinson's. We teach people how to do this same technique. We think we want to educate people, although after today's class I'm going to rethink that. But my main issue is I'm just mad. I'm mad at a government that's totally divorced from the common good of the people. And I'm upset because people don't have hope that it's going to get better. And they don't have the hope because they don't have the options. So what I went out and did with my center is create a bunch of software for people to give to them and classes to give to them. And I have 3 big pet projects right now. Post-traumatic stress disorder. And we already did a class, a 2-day free class for people, and gave them all the software to go out in their community and help these returning soldiers that the government's ignoring, actually giving them a hard time. One of them, I'm going to talk about this and I'll go back to the middle. Some people gave this veteran a home, and the government came in and confiscated it because they wanted him to pay taxes on it and he didn't have any money. It's crap like that that's got to stop. The other is pre-vaccination risk factors, where the government is just willy-nilly giving these kids shots, and to the point of stupidity. They have a vaccine now they're working on for shyness, which is totally ridiculous.
What?
And yes.
I haven't heard of that one.
But we have proven that these vaccination causes that micro strokes, and that's why these people these kids who have Alzheimer's look very much like the kids who have ADD and autism look very much like Alzheimer's because it's the same kind of blockage in the brain. And the other one is radiation exposure, because we just did a big project on Parkinson's. And people come to us who have diseases like Parkinson's, which is a deterioration of the muscles and the muscle signals to the body. And we help them be able to walk and talk and swallow again, because we can help them do great things with their muscles. But as we were looking at the 60-some people that we did data for, we found out that they were really radiation poisoned, and they were being killed from a cellular level. And the other thing they're being devastated with is GMO foods. And so there's another program called GAD that if people have allergies to GMO grains or carrots or beets or whatever else is doing GMO, then we can look at it and help people back off from that. We just had a lady today that was sneezing and couldn't quit, and we looked at her profile and we said, you've eaten some protein, some milk protein. That's what's causing this. No, I didn't have any milk. I said, tell me what you've eaten in the last 24 hours. And she ate a bunch of yogurt. Well, that's a milk product. Mm-hmm. So we're able to say, okay, your choice is you can sneeze or you can stay away from milk protein. So we're able to help people in those ways, but we would lots rather teach people to do this for themselves so they can have dominion over what's going on with them, because I find what's going on with Obamacare absolutely atrocious. This new thing, I should love it, but I'll tell you why in a minute. This new thing that just came out, that if you're over 72 years old and you have kidney disease or you get cancer or whatever, you have to go before some board and prove that you have some useful life left, or they have the choice not to treat you. They can now withhold insulin. This is crazy, and that's why we've created insulin by frequency. We've created make your muscle strong by frequency. We want to look at all of this and give it to the people, so we don't have to be under the thumb, at least with health care. And I'm not allowed to call it health care because it's medicine. I'll call it wellness support, because we have to say we're here to support optimal form and function so that we can do what we do. Think about us 20 years ago, Clint.
I'm just curious before you go on. Now, I assume that you're doing this all in the name of quote unquote science, because if you were to say that you were medically treating or curing disease, you would actually get in trouble for it. So I'm assuming that this is all in the name of quote unquote science.
Yes, we're collecting data. For instance, when we give away the software, we make people pledge to give us back data. And if they don't give us back data, their software registration wears out. Because if they don't give us data, we can't share that with other people. We can't put it in the pot and look at what's going on. But just think of the U.S. 20, 30 years ago. We were a country of self-actualized, self-esteem, writing, creating people. And now I think the majority of the people are worried about where they're going to live, who's going to take their car, what's the IRS going to do with them, how they're going to pay for health care. We have turned into a country of fear. And that's the very basic level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, your housing, your shelter, your sense of safety and peace. And this government has taken that away from us. We don't feel peace. We look up in the sky for drones to see if our name's on it. So that's my speech about what I do.
Well, that gives us a lot of angles to cover. Now, you said one of the things is post-traumatic stress. PTSD, is that correct?
Yes, post-traumatic stress disorder.
Now, what does this have to do with the frequency maybe you can explain how that is a treatment as far as the frequency.
Well, the government supplied us with 30 people who were diagnosed with PTSD. So we looked at, I guess it was 90 people, 3 sets of 30. So we looked at their vocal prints and looked at them as a homogeneous, already diagnosed group that all had the same problems. And there were consistencies. The people who were not aware that they had some kind of mental disorder and were actually a problem to society because they schizophrenic and hallucinations, and they could kill people because they thought people were after them. They're paranoid. We found that they have 4 consistent nutrients in stress: niacin, linolenic acid, zinc. What's the 4th? And niacin.
Are these deficiencies?
They can't use them. And we backed that up and found out it was from adrenal stress. They are kept in a state of hypervigilance, and it burns out their adrenals. The other ones that we found, and I really started this because so many of these guys were attempting suicide. Well, they were really accomplishing suicide, I should say. They're committing suicide at the rate of about 1.5 a day. So those people had issues with B5. I'll hurry.
Actually, we're going to go to a break right now, so stay tuned, folks. We'll be back.
Derivatives, quantitative easing, trade imbalances, recession, low GDP, nations close to collapsing, and subprime loans, foreclosed homes, and people's taxes spent to bail out too big to fail AAA banks again. Fear levels rising as a U.S. crash seems imminent, having smashed the debt.
All right, folks, welcome back. Again, we're here with Dr. Sherry Edwards, who is with Sound Health Options, and the office up there is actually in Ohio. Is that correct?
Yes, Nowhere, Ohio.
Nowhere, Ohio. Very nice. So we're talking about post-traumatic stress.
From Cincinnati in the woods.
I did a little stint there in northern Kentucky. I worked at the airport there, so I'm familiar with the area. But we're talking about post-traumatic stress. It's just one disorder that you guys are actually handling right now, and you actually offer some of the software again for free to people because you're interested in the data that is garnered from this from the software and trying to help people at the same time, of course, which I highly commend you for doing things the right way. By the way, that really is the way to go. Now, I have a friend who used to work at the Daily News in Los Angeles, and he was in the Northridge earthquake. And since then, he was basically trapped in the building. And, the lights were out, things were shaking. He was trying to get out, and he was trying to save some people. And by the time he finally got out of there, he developed what he refers to as post-traumatic stress from that incident. And what that really means for this guy is that he can't sleep for more than, say, 2 or 3 hours without severely medicating himself because his body has a reaction like an adrenaline rush that wakes him up, and it's such a powerful rush. Anytime he hears a loud sound, for instance, he has this massive adrenaline rush that just happens, and he gets all red and excited and sometimes angry, and it's not a good thing. How do you actually help people in these types of issues?
Well, we were talking about the 2 different layers that we found, and your friend would go into the second layer. We're probably looking at calcium and choline, possibly B5. If we can get those working in the body again, and we don't understand why those things quit working. The body just doesn't have a frequency to recognize it once they go into this adrenal burnout and this state of stress.
Almost like a short circuit?
Yes.
Yeah.
And if I were to give you a glibbity-dorp, you wouldn't know what to do with it. because you don't know what a globally-dorp is.
It's true.
But if we look at an adrenaline surge, then we can calm that down. Download the software. Everybody can go to the Sound Health Options site, go to Downloads, go to Bonus. The software's there, a whole set of do this, do this, do this, do this. And you can test your friend or provide the software to them. They will need a microphone. And if I had the money, I'd give everybody a microphone. But they have to download an Abacus, also a free program. There is a textbook there, 72-page textbook. There are charts there, absolutely free. What we ask is that people give us back the data. I did this on my friend who has PTSD, and these are the nutrients that he had in stress, or these are the biochemicals. This is what I found, and then we add that to our database. We put the software on there for 30 days for two reasons. One, we want the data back, and if we just give you the software forever, nobody gives us back any data. So if you don't give us data, we don't renew your software. And because you're useless to us, but you're helpful to your friend, but if we don't get the data back, we can't help other people with the data. And the other reason we put it on there is we have some professional classes where we give people tone boxes and headphones and microphones and all this different stuff, and we have to charge for that. I wish we had the money. Even though we're a 501c3, we always need money. I haven't been paid since 2010, so that'll tell you. I put my money back in to do something better or to sponsor something. So we look at this software that they can download, and there's a class there that they can, I think that one's a 2-hour class, that they can look at and learn how to use the software. And if they still don't get it, we'll do a course with them. We'll put them in a course. The course is actually $1,200 or a donation. And if you donate, 2 cents or nothing, that's okay with us. We just want people to know what this is worth, because not only with that class do you get adrenal burnout and PTSD and several other things that will tell us where we're going, because it creates allergies. We have one on the brain and what's going on there. So when they take an actual course, there's many more softwares that we provide to them.
Well, let me get this. Let me see if I understand this correctly here. So that there's no question, we're talking about a bioacoustic feedback or biology, and you're actually having, like, let's just use my friend as an example. He would actually talk into the microphone. The program would actually record his voice and analyze it for what?
For 30 seconds to look at all of his nutrients, some of the genes that go along with schizophrenia and PTSD, for adrenal stress. So those reports, they bop out, we have to teach you how to run the program. Sure. But they bop out, and then you use them or take them to your chiropractor or whatever you need. Could be a spine thing, You take those reports to whoever you need to take them to or use them for yourself, and in hopes that we'll be able to help.
And how did you figure, we're going to come up on another break here just to warn you, but how did you figure this out, that your voice and the tone of your voice can actually translate things that a dis-ease, if you will, in your body, or things that are deficient, or things that are, how did you figure this out? Because it's a fascinating thing.
It was totally accidental. I have hearing that is very unusual. My cochlea in my ear is too tightly wound. So I was hearing sounds coming from people's ears. And I worked in a speech and hearing department just to see if I could figure out what was going on. And they said, Sherry, we know you're weird, but just don't talk about that, because that's over the edge. Until Johns Hopkins University proved that what I was hearing was a sound coming out of the ear that was above most people's hearing. And we began to look at that. in that speech and hearing department as a project. And if this sound was coming out of the ear, people had high blood pressure. And if this sound was coming out, they had high blood sugar. John Hopkins is using some of that now, and you can see it all over PubMed, that they use that sound from the ear to diagnose blood sugar and liver problems and kidney problems. We just took it a different direction because they have to stick this very sensitive wire in your ear and measure this sound that's almost inaudible. We found out that we could do it from the voice. As I was listening to people and listening to their voice, I could tell that what was coming out of their voice was matching what was coming out of their ear, sort of at a different octave. Now,
so you were
I was
actually
hearing
hearing
about this.
You were actually hearing this personally, or only through the machine?
I was hearing it personally, and I could duplicate it, and people would recognize it. But as we were working on all of this and correlating the data, it just kept getting more and more obvious that this frequency belongs to that muscle and this frequency belongs to that biochemical. So it's taken us 30 years to get a database together.
Fascinating. All right, Dr. Edwards, stay tuned, folks, for more of the Corporation Nation with Dr. Sherry Edwards and bioacoustic biology. Very interesting concept. Stay with us. Welcome back, folks, to the Corporation Nation. Again, my guest today is Dr. Sherry Edwards. Website is soundhealthoptions.com. I was just reading under the heading, What is Bioacoustic Biology? You make a very bold claim here, and you say that to survive, the human race needs bioacoustic biology. For bioacoustic vocal profiling to survive, practitioners, clinicians, and trainers are needed. And you also go on to say that there are currently no competent medical services that demonstrate the potential to help us survive the threat of, say, pandemic bird flu, to restore our DNA. I assume you mean probably the parts of the epigenome and such to its perfect form, and to rid us of vaccination damage and residue, or to support our dwindling immune responses. And, in my research, I'm going to tend to agree with your assessment here, because I'm finding over and over and over that all roads lead to some form of energy / frequency, most importantly, the frequency. Your story there was very interesting. It almost sounds like the makings of a science fiction movie where one woman could hear, through the mire and could hear the disease state of a man, and then the Sound Health Options was created and bioacoustic feedback and da-da-da. I mean, it's actually a really fascinating story when you tell it.
Well, if it's just me hearing people, it's going to die when I die. So that's why I created the computer system for everybody to be able to do it. But look at our health system. They're tightening the noose on our options and what they're going to give us to keep us healthy. I believe that whoever controls health controls the quality of life. And I want that to be the individual. And think about this for the humans to survive. We figured out a project that we started with NASA, and then the government jerked the money, so that got drained. But we have figured out how to keep the muscles taut and strengthful, and how to keep the bones from getting soft and brittle for people on Earth. Now, we've never done this in weightless conditions, but we certainly can remineralize the bones, and we can make muscles weak or strong. I want the opportunity to do this in sort of a weightless simulation, because I think if we have to go to other planets, the big thing they're saying right now, the technology's here, people's bodies just can't tolerate the trip. So we figured that out. So we go to other planets and we don't have to kill the useless eaters and all that. We have created a CD, and we gave it away for a long time, and we do give it away to our students. And it was written by James Marshall, who played in Gladiators and Twin Peaks, and he's a musician. He took some medication that dissolved his bowel. And after being in the hospital for 2 years, they sent him home and said, go home and die. And he was listening to Coast one night. I was on there. He got in touch with us and said, I need help. Nobody else knows anything. So we took a picture of his voice. We knew what was going on. We knew what was happening with the food in his system. Long story short, he's getting well. Now his bowel's not regrown yet, but he certainly can eat. And he's gained weight from the 80 pounds that he ended up being.
Well, okay, so let me clarify here. Now, you've taken, with this guy, for instance, you've taken his vocal imprint, as you say, a holographic representation of the self, or even like almost like a printout of like you'd get for when you plug in a car at a mechanic. I would say is the easiest way to look at it. So once you've diagnosed that, now you have a diagnosis, you have a printout of the problems. What did you actually do for this guy? Are you applying then different frequencies for his particular health, or are you just recommending different mineral supplements? What are you doing to fix his condition?
Okay, we aren't allowed to say diagnose. We just evaluated and said, you can't tolerate this food. You need this food. These are the sounds you need. And we sent him a little tone box with the sounds on them to reestablish his DNA, and that's what got upset. But he is better now. He's writing music, and he decided to do it with sound, that music he was playing. And he said to me, you've done so much for me. You've saved my life. I want to do something for you. And we were working on a project for the pandemic flu that they are threatening us all with. And by the way, we can prove mathematically is man-made. So he took all these frequencies, and they didn't sound good together. And he said, Sherry, I'm trying to do this, but I don't think it's going to be anything. I said, just try it, see what happens. So he created a piece of music called La Ciel, and we tried it out, and people who, you see if I can find a little bit of it for you. People who play it get rid of any kind of sinus infection. Now, and bronchial things and pneumonia. And I'm not sure it's come up here. As soon as I get it coming up, it should do its thing altogether, shouldn't it? Well, here it comes. And when we look at a pathogen, is that coming through with any kind of clarity at all?
Absolutely.
Okay. He took all these frequencies that we had figured out for antidotes to these pathogens. We have antidotes for the vaccine, all frequency-based. We've created this math matrix, and depending on where your voice lays down on this grid of math, we can usually tell what kind of issue you have. So he made this for us, and we give it away to the students or anybody that has a cold or whatever. We can make it available to them. I think for some people, if it's not a download, they charge for it, but I'm not sure. But this, we've kept track of it, and it actually helped one doctor that we have the data on and all the laboratory tests. He had Tamiflu-resistant flu, and he'd had it for 6 weeks or so. This knocked it out in about a day and a half.
Really?
So pandemics, when they threaten us with a pandemic, hey, We got the antidote, and let's put it out our window and broadcast it to everybody. When all of this stuff falls on it from chemtrails, let's put the frequency out there to the community. If they're threatening us with anything, we have antidotes, and we have given away the antidotes for this, the plague, bird flu, swine flu. It's in a program that we call countervailing the season, because we aren't allowed to claim we get rid of the flu. So just countervailing, which means going against the seasonal flu. So we try to keep, under the radar in what's going on. But that's another thing that I think will save the world, or part of it. And how GMOs are distorting people's genetics. We can work with that. The vaccinations and how they're distorting genetics. So I think there's a lot, and somebody needed to step up and say, enough! And at that point, people were so devastated they couldn't afford anything. So we gave it away, not only for them to use on themselves, but for them to make money doing it with other people. If they want to charge 3 cents or $10 to do this evaluation for people, to tell them what's going on. Have they been exposed to radiation? And here is the nutritional antidote. So that's our plan. We've already done
are you actually patenting these things? Because that's, of course, a dangerous step. Or are you making it public domain? Are you making it somehow protected so that it can't be stolen from under you, the technology itself?
The only reason we patented it was so Big Pharma couldn't come in and grab it. But it is patented, but we always carry provisional patents so nobody can look in them, and we just keep renewing them. And all of the software is copywritten. We've been offered millions for this by 2 governments that are not the U.S., and I wouldn't sell it because I think it needs to be for the people.
Well, good on you. Good on you. We need more people like you out there. So we're going to go to another break here, so stay tuned. And I've got another very interesting question dealing with the acoustics, so hold on, folks.
We're lost in space, and the earth is your home.
Welcome back, folks. You're in the Corporation Nation, and we are talking, of course, today about the medical corporation that has a stranglehold on anything that seems to be healthy or, that might help people. They just pretty much take that and shelve it, and often we'll just say, well, there's a symptom. Let's not worry about what's causing the symptom. Let's just, treat the symptom. And that's what a lot of us out here are trying to change, not the least of which is Dr. Sherry Edwards, my guest today. Now, I wanted to ask you a question about, and I actually had to ask Dr. Edwards. I'm a little embarrassed being a musician, but I had to remember my music theory. And I wanted to ask about harmonics, because obviously, a single frequency is one thing, and it definitely has a purpose and a power. But when you combine that frequency with its octave and with its harmonic frequency. So in other words, which, for instance, a fifth of the scale, or a, seventh or whatever. When you start combining frequencies in their harmonic ranges, that's why the piano sounds so beautiful. That's why the guitar sounds so beautiful, because it's harmonizing off those other strings and creating that powerful and in my opinion, healing sound that people love. So is that something that you're dealing with as well?
Absolutely. And let's go back to nature for a minute. Go back to foxglove, and they took one bit out of foxglove and made digitalis. They left out the other components of that herb that work synergistically. And when you look at an herb, it is a chord of of music, and everything works together. But when you're working with harmonics and that entrainment, you pluck one string and another string begins to harmonize and vibrate, and that creates a very small difference. That low frequency speaks to your brain. That's what causes the difference. And we don't know how the brain loses its range of frequencies. It needs full spectrum frequency, just like we need full spectrum light. We don't know if it's man-made electricity or bad food, bad water. We have enough of that. Bad thoughts, bad sex, bad colors. We just don't know. But we know that by fighting the frequency that your brain has in stress, it begins to entrain. And we've proved that it goes through the skin, into the nerves, back to the brain. So this goes back to Pythagoras and his string theory, which is pluck a string and it creates a note of C, and then you put your finger on it and it'll create another note, or put two fingers on it and it creates another note. So those relationships are all important when we look at your voice. It's like finding a sour note in a song, or if we find the sour notes in your voice and try to write them naturally, innately, by providing the frequency to your brain and letting it make the change. Does that help?
In a way, are you putting the cells at ease because you're providing the proper frequency that maybe lets them work it out themselves? Is that?
Well, I don't know if it's at ease. We had a client today that had peripheral neuropathy. His hands were getting numb. And we know from our own data that it takes about 40 years from the time you get a measles shot for it to demyelinate the cells and cause you to have this peripheral neuropathy.
And so the myelin sheath, just to be clear, is the coating around the vessel, the cells?
Yes.
Yes.
And it's made from cholesterol and all that. And this measles virus that didn't get turned into something supportive to your body begins to eat that myelin sheathing to the point where your nerves don't send the signals to where they ought to go. So you get sporadic movement over here, like those jerks your friend is doing in his sleep. Mm-hmm. That might be part of this. But we do have a sleep program and we could look at it. But besides that, you look at peripheral neuropathy and it's B12 and it's Castle's intrinsic factor. And so somebody comes in with a peripheral neuropathy and we begin to look at that. Well, he's lacking cysteine. And cysteine is an amino acid that works with Castle's intrinsic factor to make your B12 to feed back the nerves, the sheathing that it needs. Now,
so you're allowing the body to start producing B12 again, is that?
We hope that's what's happening, because as we watch it, he gets stronger. We have these little measurement hand dynamometers we can use. So you begin to watch giving somebody B12, and this is what happens to them, or give them myostatin, which is a protein, and I think the body's ruled by the proteins. You give them myostatin, and they get weak. And you give them the antidote for myostatin, and they'll get strong again. And they don't know what they're getting. So we're kind of doing backwards science, just kind of looking to see what is. But it's all based in music theory and Pythagorean string theory. Well, I guess it's also based in modern string theory, where they say we're made of these infinitesimal little strings, but they don't have the slightest idea what makes the string an eyeball or whatever. Sure. We think we've figured out the magnetic potential and the coherence of the frequencies required to make that eyeball. So if you look at string theory as DNA, the pattern of the body, what we've tapped into, we think, is the RNA, the workers that keep the body healed the way it should, or keep the body up to optimal form and function. We just kind of accidentally tapped into that.
Well, congratulations. I mean, it really is a fascinating story, actually, when you tell. I'll tell you what, we're going to come up on yet another break. It'll be a longer break. And when we come back, I'm sure there's some people out there that'd like to ask you some questions if you'd like to take some phone calls.
Well, we'll see if we can answer them.
Yeah, I have a feeling you can. And also, when we get back, I'd like you to explain the what's it called, the tone box, and what is actually. I mean, it says on your website it's a 700-page textbook, and I the tone box itself is it sounds kind of fascinating to me because I'm thinking of various technologies. For instance, Royal Rife's technology, H.R.O.D. is doing similar things. You had so many different people who've tried to do what you're doing in history, throughout just the last 100 years, and of course ending up destitute, in jail, their patents stolen, all of their good works basically, of course, destroyed or hidden or shelved. And I don't want to see that happen to you. So
we have some solutions. I think that our ace in the hole is my hearing, because I can tell when something works and it doesn't, and that just cuts our work in half of what we have to do.
It's really neat. Like I said, it's almost like a science fiction story to be written, or that you're writing. Your life is kind of a science fiction story, which really is kind of neat.
Well, we have a tricorder thing, so we could talk about that.
What? I'm sorry?
A tricorder.
Is that like a Star Trek?
On Star Trek.
Very nice. Well, we're going to go to break in just a minute, but go ahead, please.
Well, the tone box you're talking about, it speaks math. It speaks the math that your brain speaks, like 0 to 64 cycles per second. And somebody comes in with a broken bone, we know what that needs. And so we give them a tone box and we send them back to the doctor. And how did we do? Did this heal? It heals probably in half the time. So that's what Bones did with this little tricorder, or Dr. Beverly or whoever. They look at the frequencies and they give a frequency back. And it's what we have, this little tone box that speaks math, that speaks brain, is like the tricorder. And we've already proven its worth in things like somebody with Parkinson's that can't turn over in bed. We made a tone box for fab abs. And now they can turn over in bed because we're feeding the frequencies to those abdominal muscles that go weak.
You're strengthening the core.
Yes.
Very, very interesting. More on this tricorder, than which the officer thinking, by the way. Stay with us for more of Dr. Sherry Edwards. If you'd like to call in today, we'll take calls in the last probably 45 minutes, half hour. That number, of course, is 1-800-313-9443. Stay tuned.
Don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, tell you what to do, what to think, and what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines, you are men. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful. Let us use that power to make this life a wonderful adventure. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world to do away with greed. A world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. Do not despair. The hate of men will pass and dictators die. And the power they took from the people will return to the people. Let us all unite.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Corporation Nation. My guest today is Sherry Edwards, and Miss Edwards actually corrected me that she is not a medical doctor, and I apologize for somehow getting that moniker in front of her name. But I want to make it clear that she is not a medical doctor. In fact, I was happy to hear that she has no desire to be a credentialed, to fall into the credential trap of the medical industry. So I'm actually kudos to Miss Edwards for that. Website is soundhealthoptions.com. And before we went on break, you were saying something that again hit home really, 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 really hard when you said that you've got this tone box, and you said it's like a tricorder from the Star Trek series, and you watched and you saw the guy basically put a little thing, which it turns out is actually just a frequency box, and he's putting it over a part of the body that is injured or sick or has dis-ease. And suddenly they feel better almost instantly. Now, of course, that's going to be way off in the future, but basically your tone box is doing the same thing. And I got to say that that's exactly the same results that Dr. A. Truott was having before all the hellfire went down from the FDA with him. I mean, so you guys are on the same track, and it sounds like there's a lot of people coming to the same fruition here.
Right, looking at frequencies on each part of the body, and what's on the left hand is not what's on the right hand. But we can look at what's on the voice, which is an expression from the brain, and look at the frequencies that it creates for us to use for the hand. And these are brain frequencies. We look at 0 to, about 128 cycles per second, and you talked about octaves. So the voice will give us the octaves that we need to give back. So we have that part of assessing the body, and then the tone box that we use, we give back sine waves. The sine waves, Dr. Robert O. Becker says that the body perceives and heals itself in a sine wave fashion and in an analog fashion. Now, you and I talking on the radio, that's digital. But you and I talking in a room, that's analog. So my diaphragm pushes the information and expresses the information. But with digital, it's approximated, and they have to have, it's not really called a carrier wave, but let's just call it that so people can understand. Like on a telephone, you talk from here to California, and I'm in Ohio, you have to have something to boost. So on a CD, they need something to boost the energy of the frequency. And they do this in vocal range, about 100 cycles to top 400, unless you got really weird singing people. But they use 44,000 cycles per second to sort of sample that and carry it around. That's the same frequency that causes prostate cancer. So they decided, now we're going to use 96,000. And I looked at it and I said, and that's the genome for leukemia. So I'd like to keep some data. So they started using the 96 as sort of their carrier wave, and 2 people came down with leukemia. Look at the statistics for young men in America in particular. It probably would be the same for Japan, because they use a lot of CD music. And it's 44,000. Same frequency that creates prostate cancer.
So I'm sorry, so 44.1, is that?
44,000.
Yeah, so 44,100, and then 48,000 is the other common frequency, if we're on the same page.
Yeah, for the sample rate, kind of what they're doing.
Yes. Interesting.
So as we look at this, we want to give the brain an analog frequency. Let me see if I can do an analog sound so you can tell the difference.
Oh, yeah.
That's an analog sound. And a digital sound sounds like... And so the harmonics are different, and the harmonics is what does the work. So we created an analog tone box that speaks to the brain, just like music. It's in the background, sort of like, but it's a specific frequency that the brain uses to train your finger or your little toe or turn food into nutrients. So that's the patterns that we've picked up. And I'm not saying don't ever play a CD, because that's not in a brain wave range, which is really 0 to 64 cycles per second if you look at beta and theta and delta and all that. But on the lower end, if you use those low CD or frequencies on a CD, one, the speaker probably won't contain it because speakers don't go down that low normally. But there is an issue with playing these sounds, these brain sounds, in a digital way. So we try to stay analog, and that's what's inside the tone box. We set it with a computer, and that's mainly what our classes are about, to teach you how to run the software.
Well, so basically what you're saying is that a digital signal is a false impression of nature, which would be an analog signal.
Yes.
And it's dangerous.
It could be. Not that it is. It could be. Given the wrong signal, for me, even analog, I know what signal sends me to the bathroom instantly. So when they were doing that Brown Sound TV show, they came to us and said, is there a sound that'll send to everybody? No, everybody has their own individual set, just like a song has an individual set of notes. So there are some that are the same, and we tell that to the public and how to protect themselves, how to protect their brain. But they've got things down now to where they can beam a frequency at you while you're on stage and give you your lines if you forget a cue.
Absolutely. And I've actually seen the speaker that does that. I was at a seminar with Dr. Stephen Jones, and he had a speaker that was very directional, so you could only hear it when it was pointed exactly at you. Very, very, very strange stuff. And of course, I've dealt with shotgun mics that'll only pick stuff up right in front of you as well. Mm-hmm. Wow. So would that be number one or number two? Would be my next question. Or are those different frequencies?
It's a bowel movement. It just loosens your bowels. I think that's why they called us when they did that show, that cartoon show, The Brown Sound.
Yeah.
They wanted to know if that was true. And they were very disappointed when I told them it was not true. And if we teach everybody their own sound and what they need, people can't manipulate them. And that's another free program on our website. It's a different kind of program. It's called a personality profiler. But there's a lot of things you can do with that one. Like when I looked at yours, and we were talking here, you're a multitasker. Whoops. Break time.
Oh, you mean I don't get to learn about myself? Darn it. All right, folks, stay with us to hear about me when we get back. Stay tuned.
Of your life through ideological hegemony. But if you think you need guns to stop tyranny, then what you waiting for? We've already stripped you of your liberty, privacy, civil rights, and dignity. You want some more?
Hey, neighbor. Welcome again to this neighborhood. I'd like to show you something. You know what this is? Well, maybe if I press this button. Imagine every person that you see is somewhat different from every other person in the world. Some can do some things, some can do others. Did you ever think of the many things you've learned to do? Many things did you ever grow anything in the garden of your mind?
Welcome back, folks. Here in the Corporation Nation radio program, and the guest today is Sherry Edwards. Again, website is soundhealthoptions.com. Now, Sherry, if you don't mind, we're going to take some calls. I'm sure people have questions of their own, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to, because you said earlier, and this is a genuine concern of mine, of course, and I'm sure it is of yours too. Like you said, you have the ear for it. You have the power. And as we all know, life is finite. And this stuff, I think, has way more important applications towards some other things that we've talked about, like prions. And I want you to tell people, well, as I said in the beginning, you say, what is bioacoustic biology? And you say there are no competent medical services out there. They're not enough to take this, what you're working on, and actually spread it into the world. And actually, I mean, you don't need a license to do this. You don't need permission from government to spread this and actually try to help people. How can people help you get this out? That's the question.
How they could help me was to be a trainer, and I've sent a report for you on Skype if you want to pull that down. In looking at this, if a medical place got hold of it, and Pfizer Pharmaceutical and GlaxoSmithKline and AT&T are all working on this, but they're about 20 years behind us. If that happens, they will have more control. They will have absolute control of medications and people's health and things like that. I want to put this in the hands of the people so they can give us back data. We can do the research. That's what's going to help me. That's why I'm creating the computer programs and the databases. I know my life is finite. And some of my grandchildren can do pieces of this. But we have created a program called the Guardian, and we are giving, a Guardian Network. They have to sign a paper that they're not here to stop this, and they'll do it for the benefit of all concerned. And we share a class and a software with them every month. Those people are getting the information that will keep this going if something happens to me. And besides, I just haunt you from the other side anyway, and I'd still help.
Good on you.
But I don't want this put on the shelf. And that's why we try to keep it free for people.
Sure. When you say that these companies, these conglomerate corporations, which have the full support and backing of government as stockholder, by the way, would you say that they're going to try to put this into the medical realm as opposed to the scientific realm so that it can be, because, it's very difficult, of course, for the FDA to come after you if you're working in science. But if the second you claim to be medically treating somebody, then all of a sudden you're quote unquote practicing medicine. So I assume that they're going to be trying to put this into the medical field. Is that?
Well, one, I say to people, I'm collecting data. If you get well, that's your problem. So I turn it around. This is education. We're collecting data. When we went to the NIH, the National Institute of Health, and we showed them what we could do, that we had helped reverse an incurable disease in a couple of kids, they were stunned. And this guy got up and said, excuse me, and I thought he was going to get the cops to kick me out. But he went and got some heads of other departments, and he said, listen to what's going on here. Look at the substantiation. What can she do with this? Because it needs to be taken further. It's in its infancy now. There's not enough here. So we tried to get other people to take it, and they wouldn't. So at that point, we decided in that little group that collecting data, case studies, homogeneous groups, what and how are they alike by way of their frequencies? And we began to collect the data and look at it. Do you remember the Star Trek? So they reduced somebody to a frequency and put him in a little petri dish and then blew up the petri dish, and that's the way they humanely killed him. Yeah. I think there's going to be a day when we're going to be recognized by our frequency when we walk into a door. And I think, through a door, I should say, not into it. But I think these otoacoustic emissions, which we've already proven that's what's coming out of your voice, if my otoacoustic emission is coming out of this like a bullhorn kind of thing, smalling, gets bigger and bigger, and along comes your voice and mingles with the wave coming out of my ear, I think that's how we discern information, attitudes, it's all in that interference pattern that gets bounced back to us. I can't prove that yet, but I think if you look at otoacoustic emission research and you know there's a sound coming out of the ear and there's a sound coming out of your mouth that has frequency, the interference patterns give us meaning. So if we have this pattern, and I actually read a science fiction book about this many years ago, and I still wish I could find it, that before you could enter into a city, you had to go through this frequency gauge. And if you were a bad guy, they didn't let you in. You know, science fiction. But I think we're going to find what is going on. And the things that I just sent you, what's in your voice, and that's that little nano voice we began to talk about. And I look at your frequencies, and most of yours are in G, G sharp, A sharp, and B. You have the others missing. What's not there is just as important. And yes, this will give you a printout. But the most important thing is what those notes are. And we don't say that in very many public places about what the missing notes mean and what the notes mean in their balance or unbalance. But you can look at who you're compatible with, how you deal with leadership, what kind of disease you're going to have, much more. But we had to put it out there for the reasons you just say. We had to put it out there as a personality profile so people would leave us alone. And when we went to the NIH and they said, we want you to make a proposal to us. We want to fund you. And so dumb me, I wrote a proposal about using the voice to predict Parkinson's, which we can do, and it's very easy. But I wasn't dumb enough to give him everything. Within a year, Pfizer Pharmaceuticals put out a research project about predicting Parkinson's with vocal prints. And somebody named maybe it's Max Long, put it out recently that he could talk to you over a telephone and tell if you were going to have Parkinson's. I don't know where that went. It just kind of disappeared. But to be diagnostic or to be in a treatment phase where you actually show efficacy, that's practicing medicine.
Yes.
And we have buried this, and that's what the people in the Guardians get. They get the unburied information.
And Guardians is actually a tab on your website. Also, people were asking in the chat room, which is corporationnation.tatango.com, by the way. They were asking about the downloads. They wanted to know where they can download the health analyzer is basically what they were saying.
Well, there's a PTSD that's available there. And we're supposed to change it the first of the month. We just didn't change that because we're getting so many downloads every day. And there's also radiation exposure software there.
I'll tell you what. We'll answer that when we get back, and we'll take some calls. Stay with us.
It's like a finger pointing away to the moon. Don't concentrate on the finger or you will miss all that heavenly glory. Empty your mind, be formless, shapeless, like water, like water, like water, like water, like water. Water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend. Running water never goes stale, so you gotta just keep on flowing, keep on flowing. So you gotta just keep
Welcome back, folks. Here at the Corporation Nation, the guest today is Sherry Edwards. Sherry, before we go on, let's go over this again just to make sure everybody can get to the right places. Now let's just go to your website, the home, and please tell people once again what to do. One, if they want to actually help you out by being a I won't say an employee, but someone who actually does what you're doing for other people, and also the downloads section or tab, what they should be looking at for various disease.
Okay, we can't. I've got an echo here.
You sound good to me.
Oh, I was getting feedback like I was going to stutter. They can go to downloads. There's a bunch of yellow tabs. The Nano Voice is just what I was talking about. It's the personality profiler, and they need to download the instructions and the charts, and they can use this on their friends. They can tell who's lying. We give, I think there's a 2-hour information there. There's a 2-hour class there. If they want to look at PTSD, and this will be changed, and I don't know what it's being changed to. I think it's pre-vaccination that it's going to be changed to. And it says right there, PTSD software, download this, do this, step-by-step instructions. And it just right down the line tells you exactly what to do and how to download the textbook and how to download all the files that you need to help other people and explain to them what's going on. You can take our name off, put your name on, and we ask that you just send us back the data, and it's a real simple template to do that. The JBAB, Journal of Bioacoustic Biology, that's just our journal for many years. Radiation software, we leave this up 24/7 because I think we are being totally lied to. Bombarded. And we have a radiation class coming up, a 2-day class, on the 27th and 28th, and it's free. And the software is free, the textbook is free, the class is free. If they want to make a donation, they can. We'll send you the flyer. But if they can't pay anything, that's okay with us. A 2-day class. It really costs $1,200. But they get everything, well, except their microphone. But we want to invite people to that so that we can look at where most of the radiation is happening in the United States. Well, I guess I would love it if there was people from all over the world doing this.
Yeah.
So we have all of the charts there. They can do this on their own. This is all designed for them to do on their own. But if they want to be in class, that's great and wonderful too. And there's a software list that they can open. There's almost 80 softwares. The one that's in the boxes are the ones that we lend to you to do classes in your neighborhood, depending on what your need is. And then there's a secret stash, and that's 2 videos. One, Miracles of Non-Medicine, about the doctors and the research that we work with. And I've done a little intro, and that's called Breaking the Sound Barriers of Disease. But the Miracles of Non-Medicine is way more. So if they want to get involved, they can download the software. They don't have to commit up front. They can have it for 30 days. They can charge people for doing their reports. People usually charge anywhere from $30 to $50 to do this. They can do the class. They keep the money from the class. We supply the software. We just want this out there. Mm-hmm. And if we get a foundation of this, nobody can stop it because too many people know about it.
Yeah. All right, and those are all under the Downloads tab on the website soundhealthoptions.com for those still wondering. Let's take some calls. Let's take Donna from Texas. Welcome to the show, Donna.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Donna.
Hi. I really have a lot of health problems, and I probably should have just a private conversation with you.
We have practitioners in Texas, Donna.
Oh, you do? Great.
Go to
I was going to say, how do you connect?
Go to the practitioner button.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And there is a map there. Click here to view the practitioner map. Now, these are the only people taking clients this time, at this time, because people drop off because they just get too much to do. But you could also call our office, and right at the top of our site, it gives the phone number, 740-698-9119, and that is the office. They're not going to be open till Monday. We're Eastern time, and they're open 9 to 4, and they'll talk to you about what your needs are and try to find a practitioner near you.
Okay.
Now, we also have a traveling practitioner that goes to Texas.
Oh,
what
that's
kind of
great.
issues do you have?
Can you call that number over, please?
740
Yes.
698
Yes.
9119. Okay, so what kind of issues do you have, Donna?
Well, I'm developing osteoporosis, and I think it's from the smart meters on the side of the building where I live. And
So go to the little Nano voice, the download for the Nano, and look at your voice. What notes do you have missing? If you're sensitive to electricity, the note of B is going to be in stress. And for osteoporosis, the notes of D sharp and E are going to be in stress. So soundhealthoptions.com.
Yes, I have that.
Okay, go to downloads, and there's Nano Voice right at the top. Just talk into that while it fills itself up. The instructions are there. 5 clicks of the button will give you your information if you have D sharp and E or B in stress.
Okay, and I have thyroid, thyroid, and I'm diabetic, and I have numbness in my hands during the night and in the morning, especially when I wake up.
She chopped in and out on me, Clint. What did she really say?
Diabetes and numbness of the hands, and there was one other thing.
I've told you about the thyroid.
Yeah, thyroid.
Yes.
Is that hyper or hypo?
I have both. So I have to be careful of, not to eat too much. And, I've been taking care of myself very well on that, though.
We do free profiles, Donna. If you'll go to the tab called Happy Hour, we do free profiles for people there on Tuesday evenings. And there's an invitation there. Last week we did compatibilities, people who wanted a mate. But wait until we're going to do osteoporosis or diabetes. We haven't done diabetes for a long time. I'll put that on the list. But you can get on our mailing list and get invitations to this, or just go to the site, and the link is right there for you, what we're talking about and what's going to happen for the day. And then we record those and leave them up for people just to see, if they want to listen to them. Some of them, how food additives cause weight gain, and this is all computer programs. Fatigue Revisited, Alzheimer's is Fat Your Friend, Rejuvenation, Anti-Aging, Parkinson's. That's just some of them are up there. That are Happy Hour happens nearly every Tuesday unless there's a holiday or something. And that teaches people how to use the software that we helped them download. There's 20 lessons there.
Now, Donna,
so
I'd also
join us
like
on Happy Hour, and we'll see what's...
Yeah, that sounds really cool, actually. I'd also like to suggest, Donna, now we just had a Dr. A. Truott. Now, he has Mother Earth Minerals, which is meminerals.com, and he actually sells a mineral, an angstrom-sized mineral of calcium. Of course, you'd need to supplement it with other minerals. But these things break the blood-brain barrier. They go through and they go to the bone where it's needed, whereas calcium carbonate, you could be breaking bones and your body will not assimilate calcium carbonate. Stay with us, folks. We'll be back.
Living in the street. Oh, there's a solution.
And the men who hold high places must be the ones who start to mold a new reality closer to the heart. Closer to the heart.
All right, welcome back, folks. Corporation Nation, our final segment with Sherry Edwards today. I gotta applaud you, Sherry. You're doing wonderful things up there in Ohio. For those folks who didn't get a chance or aren't on the computer to look, I was just looking in Texas. There's actually one in Katy, Texas, Katy Natural Health Center, it looks like. I won't name any names, but just to let you know, there's Katy, Texas, and there's also Springtown, Texas, that you can that I can see just off the top of my head, and that's under the Sound Health Practitioner list, and I believe that was under practitioners, right? The tab practitioners?
Yes, and we need instructors. We have public instructors and we have professional instructors. We can teach you to help do this in a day to get this to your community. Can I tell you something scary?
Why, certainly.
I just read an article that GMOs cause holes in your gut and they create a protein, and likely there's a prion going on with this that makes your gut permeable, and then they create something called Zot along with it that makes your brain barrier permeable.
Well, I know there's a lot of chemicals that are food additives as well. I know dextrose is this, that small molecule of sugar that, of course, sugar is needed to transplant or transport cancers and to feed off cancer. So you got these micro particles of the smallest, particle of sugar called dextrose. They started putting in every single food, whether it was sugar-free or not. It was pretty amazing, really. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure that is, there's nothing natural about that process to create the dextrose. So I'm sure that, I'm going to have to get together with you off air and definitely share some information on the prions. And like I said, I'm actually hoping and against hope that you're actually fighting a battle against these little prions that you might not even know you're doing, and that would be wonderful, because we're talking about that off, and it just seems like there's no one battling this thing. There's only people trying to improve on it and create new ones so that they can patent them. Novel, unique life forms. It's just it's so frustrating, and I know that you understand that frustration because you've lived through it.
I wanted to mention to Donna that some of the things she's talked about, the commonality is allergy to grains, and particularly the GMOs.
Absolutely.
So just take yourself off those for 3 days, or it's something we can test. That's one of the next programs we should give away, where people test themselves on wheat allergies. I'm going to put that on the list.
Hey, very nice. Let's take Sherry in Kansas. Sherry, welcome, and please ask Sherry a question.
Hi, y'all. Sherry, whenever I hear you, it's just amazing. Have you had the opportunity to work with people that have had a stroke? Because I know
that's that's a specialty. There's 2 YouTubes, and they're on Vimeo too right now. One is Hector Flores. He came to us from the Vocational Rehabilitation Center, and they paid for all of his information. He couldn't speak. He couldn't use his right hand. He couldn't use his leg to turn around. And you can see his progress on that video. Another one is Linda Crooks, and she couldn't talk. And it took us about a half hour or so to give her back the frequencies for her palate and the back of her tongue, and then she can speak again. And you can watch this stuff happen on video.
Wow.
Is that under the media tab, by the way?
I don't know. They just added that media tab, so I don't know. I think they added the one for Chris Christie on the homepage. Let me look under links. Oh, these are just shows that we've been on. Okay, so let's look at links. Go, just my name, Sherry, Sharry, unusual spelling. Sherry Edwards, on Vimeo. It's Vimeo, I think, .com. And they're on YouTube also. I don't know if they're on this link. We could look under profiles. Is there profile? Yeah, profiles are here. And you can watch or read some of these articles. Other profiles, information. I don't see them. There's so much on there, I can't keep up with it.
I'll try to find them on Vimeo.
Well, if you don't, call the office and we'll help you out.
Okay, thank you.
And am I correct that the office is 740-698-9119?
Yes.
All right. Well, Sherry, thanks for the call. Let's get a couple other callers here. Kevin in Iowa. Welcome to the show, Kevin.
Hello, Clint. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sherry, you're just hitting all my buttons tonight. Wow, an amazing job. I'm going to give you the title of goddess. Hey, listening to your, you're just hitting it right on the nail. I want to go back to something earlier, and I want to start from kind of a common point. If you take a black light and you shine it onto the rocks in the cave, you will see that certain rocks will then have different colors and they will glow various brightnesses. And so, going back to what you had said, now I personally believe that everything has a basic operating frequency. Now, they fall into groups, and then they fall in variants within that groups. And so when you're talking about the music and so forth, have you ever heard of a guy by the name of Royal Raymond Rife?
Absolutely.
Absolutely? Great.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's a good one. Now, this guy by the name of Dr.
We give away our frequencies to combat the flu in terms of Royal Rife frequencies. Not that they're his, that the people who are using Royal Rife frequencies can add them to their repertoire.
There is a mystery as to what ultraviolet frequencies he was using while looking through his 60,000 power microscope to actually see the movement and the explosion of the various bacteria and viruses. But that's one thing I've been pursuing for probably 15 years. But going on, Dr. McCauley, he is talking about...
Wait a second. Call the office tomorrow and ask them to send you the video where we provide a frequency to explode the outside of the shell of a bacteria and a virus.
I believe I have seen that. In fact, I think I even actually have that on my desk. He's done great work there, and there's some things that need to be resolved. But Dr. McCauley, he talks about homocysteine, and you referred to cysteine, and he says that's the basis of determining heart attack potential. And then you hit Brian Greene, with the string theory. Now, Brian Greene, have you seen that video? His video on string theory?
I've seen several. You could send me the link. I'd love to know more about everything.
Yeah, and then...
just my name at Gmail.
Your name at Gmail, okay.
You can send it to my name at Gmail.
I'm definitely going to get in contact with you. This is Kevin from Iowa. And then also, there's also some work that's been done that measures a 5-digit resolution resistance from the feet. The feet have a huge number of nerves, and then if you go between the feet and the hands, you can tell what circuits are doing what in terms of their absence or not absence. So just like you were talking about with the musical notes, the thing that was very intriguing tonight was the voice patterns. And they have done things in the voice patterns for a long time, stressors and whether you're lying or not. And then you hit the personalities thing, and I have this DISC. Have you heard of that one as well?
DISC? I don't think so. There's a lot of them out there that emulate our work, and there's a lot of great work out there with just running a frequency through one hand and see if it comes out the other. Yeah. And if it doesn't, then that particular system's in stress.
All right, Kevin, thanks for the call, my friend. We are at the end, unfortunately. I apologize to the other callers out there.
That was
Sherry, what's that?
I said that was good information.
I know. Sherry, please spell out your name one more time and your email in case people have other questions.
Sharry, Sherry Edwards, just plain old normal way, just at Gmail.
Sherry Edwards at gmail.com. Sherry, thank you so much again. Sound Health Solutions. Thank you very much for being with us today.
It was awesome and quick.
Yes, it does go quick. All right, folks. Well, have a good weekend. Dr. Day on Monday.